Hello friends, I welcome to you for your class on Windows 7 Firewall. Across the history of Windows operating system, as an application utility or one of the features of Windows have always tried evolving its firewall utility. But according to the experts, one of the most easily configurable firewall has come up with Windows 7 operating system. So today we'll be discussing about how to configure Windows 7 firewall, what are the various features and availability in Windows 7 firewall. Now to access Windows 7 firewall, you need to go to your control panel. You will see various categories over here. You need to jump to system and security. Now the second system and security tool which you can see over here is Windows Firewall. Generally, Windows Firewall is a feature which is there in most of the operating systems of Windows. It is present in almost everybody's desktop, but we hardly bother about utilizing this particular security feature, security application provided by Windows. One of the major reason is that we really are not aware of how to configure this Windows Firewall, what is the use of this Windows Firewall, and how it can benefit the security of an operating system, of a desktop, laptop or whatever. Now, so today we'll be filling up that awareness lacking. To go to the Windows Firewall, just click onto it, and here you are. This is the control panel of Windows Firewall. The first thing that we need to check always on our system is that whether our firewall is on or no. Check on the left side. You're having turn Windows Firewall on or off. These two options are there. You're having the option to turn your firewall on and off over here. It is always recommended that while working offline or online, it is recommended that your firewall should always be on. Now, before I proceed ahead with Windows 7 Firewall's other settings and configurations, let me discuss a few basic definitive idea of what is a firewall. A firewall basically is like a packet filter. It's a packet filter, which means that it filters the outgoing and incoming data packets that inflows and outflows on your system. Say for example, you double click on your Mozilla Firefox browser, and in the address bar you type www.google.com and you press enter. Now as soon as you press enter, a request data packet moves out of your system and travels till the Google server. The Google accepts your request and in response sends its HTTP page, which is actually the Google search page that gets displayed on your screen. So when you sent the request packet, it was the outflowing data, and when Google server's response in the form of HTTP page entered your system, it was inflow of data. Now, the security problem appears when the malicious data or the sensitive data inflows or outflows for your system. Now to check this particular data flow or data traffic in and out of your system, Windows Firewall utilizes various rule sets. In broader way, there are 3 rule sets available in Windows Firewall. Number 1, inbound rules. Number 2, outbound rules. And number 3, connection security rules. Now if you check these rules in Windows 7. You can check it while going through advanced settings. You can see over here on the left pane you are having advanced settings. Just click over here. You need to wait for a moment. Yeah, it has appeared now. So these are various rule sets of Windows 7 firewall. If you check on the left side, here are those three rules which I discussed about: the inbound rule, the outbound rule, the connection security rules. Now, inbound rules are those rules which are used to filter the inflow of packet. That means they will check whether the packet coming from a remote IP address is acceptable by your system or no, whether it should be allowed in your system or no. Outbound rules check whether a packet moving from your system to a remote IP address, which basically identifies a remote system, is allowed or no. That means a data can be accessed by a remote system from your system or no. Connection rules defines how your system is going to create the connection between your system and a remote system. That means sometimes you get connected to a remote system which is an infected or malicious system, and your system itself again in return becomes malicious or infected. So in such a way you always need such kind of rules which can define a secure tunnel, a safe connection between your system and a remote system. Say for example, there are various kind of attacks, and one of the most famous attacks over the connections is middleman attack, wherein system number A gets connected to system number B. Now both system number A and B shares the data between each other on a medium over a tunnel, over a connection. But since the connection between them is not secure, the data is intercepted by a hacker in between. That means whatever A and B are sharing with each other is intercepted in a readable format by a hacker in between. This kind of attack is called interception attack or middleman attack. So to defend such kind of attacks, there is a possibility of a rule set which will define that the connection between system number A and B will be secured, authenticated, authorized only for the access of A and B and not H. That means it will be a one-to-one tunnel between A and B. So such kind of rules are called connection security rules. Let me proceed ahead. Now, why I called Windows 7 firewall as the most easily configurable firewall? Because in this particular firewall, unlike Linux, you can configure the default, the existing rule set, and you can even create new rules so as to use Windows firewall in a customized environment. As per your requirements, you can use it. Now you can check down on the right hand side, there is a pane called action pane, and over here you are seeing a button new rule. You just click over it, and here is a dialog box that allows you to create your customized rule as per your requirements. A good application is one that can work just according to your requirements. Now the requirement of a user may vary according to time, place, circumstances and lot many other parameters. So Windows 7 firewall fulfills all these requirements. The first thing that we need to select while creating a new inbound rule, obviously over here, that whether you are creating this rule to control a connection for a program, you want to create this rule according to a port, over a port, you want to create this rule over the predefined services of Windows operating system, or you want to create a custom rule where you want to use program, port and services together. That means a hybrid rule. So let me go ahead with the custom rule, because this will teach us how to configure a rule for a program, for a port, for predefined services and all. So you select custom rule and go for next. Now, the first thing that Windows 7 firewall rule wizard asks you, that for which program, that means for which application or software installed on your system do you want to create this rule. Say sometime it happens that you want to create a rule exactly for your Mozilla Firefox. So you just switch down to the path of Mozilla Firefox, you browse, you move to the program files, here is your Mozilla Firefox. You select Firefox application, and here is the complete path of firefox.exe. That means this is your Firefox program for which this rule is being created. Now suppose you want to create the rule for all the programs, you select all the programs and go ahead. Now before I proceed ahead, here is something you are seeing, customize. As I said that you can even create rule for various Windows services. Like there is a service, remote procedure call or remote packet capturing service. Now this particular kind of services are allowed by Windows so as to access a system remotely or access its data remotely. Whereas the same services can be exploited by the hackers in order to sniff or intercept your data using various kind of sniffers or packet crafters. So you can even customize your rule for various services that are available on Windows operating system. Well, I won't be customizing it for any service. I'll proceed ahead for all the programs. I'll go next. Next thing, port and protocol. Now as we have discussed earlier, that port is a logical cum physical utility that allows you or allows your system to connect physically and logically to the remote system or to the neighborhood system. Now in total there are 65,535 ports. And sometimes it does happen that a hacker gets connected to your system via an open port which you are not using. So how can we break the connection between our system and that remote hacker system over a port? You can create a rule over a particular local or remote port, and then finally at the end as an action you can block that connection. And this is how over a port you can block, allow, or allow in secured environment a particular connection. Now there are various kind of protocols that we must have studied in our various OSI and TCP IP reference models. We can select any protocol you want to create this rule for, and if you want to create this rule for all the protocols, you can go ahead, and hence we are creating this rule for all the programs, for all the protocols, and for all the ports. Whether remote or local, for all the ports we are creating it. Let us go next. Now, as I have said earlier, a firewall is a utility that works on IP connectivity level. That means it identifies two systems for which the rule is being created only via its IP address. The only identity a system can have on Windows Firewall is its IP address. So suppose I am having a particular IP address on my system which is 192.168.1.14. So this is the IP address locally on my system for which I want to create this rule. Now for a remote system having an IP address 192.168.1.92. Now this is a system which I feel can intrude my system, or I want to create the rule for the connection between this IP address and this IP address. This is my local IP address and this is the remote IP address of the system I want to get connected to. Now I go next to proceed ahead. Here is the point of action. What I need to do with this rule, whether I want to allow the connection or allow the inbound data flow through this rule set, I want to block the connection, or I want to allow the connection under certain customized rule set. Over here in simpler terms, because it is our first class, let us go a bit simply. I'll block the connection between 1.14 and 1.92, and I go next. There are various domains, the private, the public and the domain computers. I block these two systems connecting with each other via this rule for all the domains. And here is my test 1, which is the name of this particular rule. Finish. Let me shift to my inbound rules to check whether I have got my rule over here or no. And here is my test rule. Thanks a lot. We'll proceed ahead with the same discussion in the next class as well. Thanks you so much.